This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on the South Today, the number of COVID cases continues to drop, with just 15 new cases in Auckland, while the COVID minister has level 2 advice. Dunedin restaurateurs are among those happy with the first day of level 2. And the Sports Hall of Fame at Dunedin's railway station may have to close following a major blow to its funding. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Sophie Morris. The number of people testing positive for COVID-19 continues to drop. However, the Minister for COVID-19 response couldn't guarantee there wouldn't be another outbreak coming from managed isolation.
At this afternoon's COVID-19 briefing in Wellington, Director General of Health Ashley Bloomfield says there are only 15 new cases of COVID-19 Delta, all in Auckland. He says there are some unlinked cases, but the authorities are undertaking origin tracing.
However, only 2 of today's new cases are yet to be linked, even as of 9 o'clock this morning. And investigations into all unlinked cases continue. That number is expected to fall. The focus of those investigations is very much on the more recent cases, and even if we are unable to link them back specifically to an earlier case, the key thing we are looking for here is that there is no onward spread from those new cases.
Dr Bloomfield's message is simple. He says we all need to be certain there's no virus circulating in the community, and asks anyone with symptoms to get tested. While everywhere outside of Auckland is in level 2 from today, till at least next Tuesday. COVID-19 Response Minister Chris Hipkins reminded people about the changes to level 2 in response to the Delta variant.
As many New Zealanders step out again today for their first day at Alert Level 2, it is important to remember that it's now mandatory to create a record of where you have been if you're visiting certain locations. The New Zealand COVID Tracer app and QR codes are usually the easiest way to do that, but there are other alternatives for those who don't use that technology.
Minister Hipkins says an investigation into the Crown Plaza MIQ facility has wrapped up, and he couldn't guarantee there won't be another outbreak caused by a leak from an MIQ facility.
The risk will never be zero, but we are taking the words of the experts that it is negligible. The hotel has served us well and it's been a core part of our MIQ network.
Hipkins says the investigation into how MIQ facilities operate has led to changes to the much maligned booking system, which the Minister says will now be fairer for all. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Aurora Energy is busy removing the high voltage power lines and pylons which have spanned the harbour for more than 60 years. The lines between Port Chalmers to Portobello were removed this week, and a helicopter will be used to dismantle the Portobello pylon over the weekend. The other pylons on Quarantine Island, Port Chalmers and Goat Island will be dismantled over the next few weeks. The ageing towers were installed in 1957 and have been replaced with 2 new submarine cables spanning the harbour floor. Dunedin business owners are saying they can't wait for customers to return, and from today they didn't have to. But some restaurants are having to significantly limit the number of diners to meet level 2 restrictions.
Staff of restaurants such as Dunedin's Etrusco have been allowed back to get the eateries ready for when they open for business tonight. Etrusco can normally cater for up to 200 diners, but level 2 restricts them to just 50. So owners Megan and Federico Giannone say they're planning to have 3 sittings every evening.
Well, we've initiated obviously separate seating, and we've got every alternate table because obviously in the room's big, so that is great and it's to our advantage, I suppose. And we're having table sittings as well, 5:30, 7 and 8:30, allowing 1.5 hours per table.
Not only will the restaurant have to operate under reduced numbers of diners, but an extra staff member will be required to man the door.
We'll have to monitor people coming in and out the door, so that because they tend to bunch up, so we will have somebody at the door just to make sure that people are keeping a little bit of a distance and don't, you know, of course they won't be wearing masks while they're eating and drinking, but we'd like them to wear masks as they come in and out of the restaurant.
The couple have owned the restaurant for 27 years and say it's been well supported by regular diners over that time.
It'd be great to see their faces again because they've virtually become your friends.
Yeah, they do.
27 years, you know, like, hey, a lot of them that are grey now had the same colour of hair as dark when they started coming in. You know, so really, they're part of your life.
Despite the setbacks, the Gianones say they're happy to see life come back to the empty restaurant. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A small 3-bedroom Wanaka house sold online for more than $2.1 million recently. The price was more than double its rateable value of just under $1 million. The Weatherboard House at 116 Beacon Point Road was originally built in the 1960s as a 2-bedroom holiday home. A 3rd bedroom and carriage was added in the 1980s. It sold 7 years ago for just over $600,000. The Dunedin City Council has voted unanimously not to offer the New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame another $100,000 lifeline to get it through the financial year. The hall has been at the Dunedin railway station for more than 20 years, but doubts have grown about the suitability of the location and alternative venues are being considered.
Dunedin's Sports Hall of Fame may have to shut after the City Council voted not to offer the museum an additional $100,000 to further support its operation over the current financial year. The council had already given the museum $50,000 last December, but questions had been raised about the Hall of Fame's viability in its current location. The museum's CEO, Ron Polanski, says it's housed at the local railway station because that was all that was on offer at the time of setting up.
For the first 7 years it existed just in an office in Wellington. People were inducted, but the public of New Zealand, if they knew it existed, had nothing to look at. And so the whole board decided that it needed a museum, and it wrote to local authorities in Auckland, Rotorua, Wanganui, Wellington, Christchurch and Dunedin asking for suggestions and of support, and the only one that responded positively was Dunedin, which offered this first floor of the railway station.
The hall boasts a remarkable collection of all sorts of unique memorabilia, such as the motorbike on which 40-year-old speedway rider Ivan Major won his 6th world title in Poland. And much of the collection was gathered through word of mouth.
I was asked to set it up, and so I walked in one day and there's this vast empty expanse, and the only thing here was a bust of Richard Hadley, which I'd brought from Wellington with me. And so for the next 18 months I made a couple of trips around New Zealand, visiting people, asking people for a loan or a donation of materials, and as the word got around and people would ring me and offer me stuff, like Bob Charles, for example, rang me one day when I was walking down George Street and said, "Oh, I hear you're setting up the Hall of Fame, can you come up to the farm and I'll give you some stuff?" So I went up to his place in Oxford, and he had a triple garage, and he opened the doors of the triple garage, and it was just, the floor was just covered with golfing memorabilia of his, clubs and bags and clothes.
The Hall of Fame has been operating on reduced funding after Sport New Zealand suspended its $100,000 annual grant. In the meantime, the local council will offer subsidised rental at the Dunedin railway station for the near future. There's been a proposal to rehome the museum at the Edgar Centre, but that also depends on council support. There's also been suggestions it be rehomed at a museum elsewhere in the country. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And we'll have further developments on that story tomorrow. Still to come on the South Today, a group of Otago University researchers are welcoming mandatory QR codes. And we hear from Queenstown Mayor Jim Bolt about how alert levels have affected the resort town. We'll see you after the break.
to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
September is Sleeptopia, so that means it's time to wake up, Dunedin, and save money. John's taken 25 to 50% off all bedroom furniture and beds. And John knows beds. Every spring, every foam, and all the sizes in stock and available today. For expert advice and unbeatable customer service, see the sleep specialists at John's Furniture Warehouse, Stafford Street, and online.
Where did you get that furniture from? Stafford Street. And my mate John.
Welcome back. As of midnight last night, it became mandatory for most businesses and event organisers to give customers a way to record their visit. A group of Otago University researchers is welcoming mandatory QR codes after an audit showed less than 10% of Dunedin residents scanned into businesses just before the current lockdown. Final year Otago medical students analysed data from 4,200 visits at 64 locations around Dunedin between July 18th and August 1st. Reaching alert level 2 has been a lifeline for many, especially those in the tourism sector. As it was with the first nationwide COVID-19 lockdown, Queenstown has been hit hard. Mayor Jim Bolt caught up with Daryl Baser via Zoom this afternoon.
Kia ora, Jim. Thanks for joining us. So we're in level 2 today, the Delta version. What's the feeling like in Queenstown?
Look, a little bit surreal at the present time. I think generally people are trying to figure out what the revised level 2 actually does look like. I went downtown to buy some lunch earlier, and mixture of people wearing masks and not wearing masks. Everybody in the shops, of course, wearing masks, but feedback from businesses is, are we allowed to do this? Are we allowed to do that? How do they handle the number of people going into establishments? How do they handle the recording side of it? Very much kind of suck it and see at the present time.
Indeed. With the Delta restrictions on public gatherings, how's it affecting potential patronage around the city?
Well, we're getting the ski fields back open again. I was did a lap of Lake Hayes this morning, running very early in the morning, and was quite delighted to hear the avalanche explosions going on the remarks. So clearly getting the field ready for operations. And if the ski areas are operating, then the rest of the town is operating. So look, just quietly settling into it. We will, however, be something of a shadow of our normal economic powerhouse this time of the year, without any overseas markets, of course, and without the very important Auckland market. Auckland makes up around 50% of our business, maybe 60% domestic business, that is. So, we'll be missing them.
The first round of COVID hit pretty hard. How has this round of the COVID lockdown hit Queenstown?
The same and different. I'd have to say that people have been a little more relaxed this time. I guess last time it was Brave New World, and everybody was trying to figure out what it meant and what to do. This time we've been there, done that. I perhaps think that there was a bit more activity happening that shouldn't have been happening. People are a little bit blasé about it. So it's pleasing that we are now out of level 3 and able to socialise, because people certainly were ready for socialising. Talking to young people in particular, you know, they're ready to go and see their mates and open up the social channels again. So good that they're able to do that. But look, I wouldn't want to see another one come along. I think there's a fair old element in the district is we've had enough of this, time to move on. Somebody told me the other day that we haven't actually had a COVID case in the South Island since May 2020. I'm not sure whether that's right or not, but I'm guessing it must be something like that. And, you know, I think there is a South Island element here where we're saying we don't need to be locked down again.
So accommodation and tourism providers could potentially be a bit nervous about visitors from Auckland when they're allowed to come. What could be done to mitigate any nerves some of your hosts might be having?
Look, I think the government is showing a very conservative approach to handling this, and I just don't think there's any chance that Aucklanders will be travelling to this part of the world until there's a high degree of confidence that they won't be taking COVID or Delta variant of COVID with them, or any COVID with them for that matter.
The tourism sector's always been hit pretty hard. So how's the trickle-down effect been this time around on the related industries and just the cities, the town as a general?
I had an email last week from a professional in the medical fraternity, if you want to put it that way, in the medical industry, telling me how difficult it was to be in business at the present time because of all the restrictions on the number of patients they're allowed to see, the additional costs their businesses bear. And it occurred to me that this goes far wider than just the tourism, hospitality, accommodation activities providers. This actually does hit the whole town. And, you know, we've been in this now for 18 months. So it's the rest of New Zealand. But our industries, our prime industry here, tourism, has lurched from one level to another level, to the Australians being here, not being here, to lock down, reopen again. There's a high degree of fatigue around this now. People have used all the resources they've got. A lot of them are now running out of resources. We were very enthusiastic about working with government towards a cracking open of the international borders early in 2022. I see Minister Hipkins has thrown a bucket of cold water at that in the last 24 hours, and not sure what's going to happen about that. That is a big concern of ours.
Yes, indeed. Because we can't have people coming from Auckland. But are there any countries that would be, that their COVID status is good enough to be let into places like Queenstown?
Well, that's a really interesting point, because, you know, we're talking about Australia, and we all know that New South Wales at the present point in time is a mess. But, you know, what about looking at the likes of Singapore, Taiwan, perhaps South Korea, where they do seem to have quite a degree of control. So, you know, we certainly do need to think about markets beyond Australia, but only when we can be convinced that it's safe to bring those folk in here.
Like if they passed like a pre-departure COVID test a week before, something like that?
I think what's generally understood is that anybody intending to come here would have to prove that they've had a vaccination, bona fide vaccination. I'm imagining that people will need to have that recorded in their passport in some fashion. A test before they leave home, a test on arrival, and maybe they have to isolate in a hotel overnight and have a test the next day, that sort of thing. And then obviously very strict contact tracing when they are in the country.
How are you? And the town going to celebrate level 2 and hopefully level 1 next week?
Well, that's a really interesting point, because last time when we actually had Aucklanders come back in here, I jumped off a bridge, and that seemed to be terribly interesting. When the Australians turned up here earlier in the year, the plan was for me to jump out of an aeroplane. Fortunately, the wind was blowing that day, so I'm kind of hoping the weather isn't that marvellous when the Aucklanders come back again.
Excellent plan. Queenstown Lakes Mayor Jim Bolt, thanks very much for your time.
Cheers. Good on you.
After the break on the South Today, the Alexandra Blossom Festival has been cancelled due to uncertainties about upcoming COVID-19 alert levels. And we take a look at the weather.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
September is Sleeptopia, so that means it's time to wake up, Dunedin, and save money. John's taken 25 to 50% off all bedroom furniture and beds. And John knows beds, every spring, every foam, and all the sizes in stock and available today. For expert advice and unbeatable customer service, see the sleep specialists at John's Furniture Warehouse, Stafford Street, and online.
Where did you get that furniture from? Stafford Street. And my mate John.
MTF Finance can help you turn the key on your next vehicle with a loan made just for you. TCs and lending criteria apply.
Welcome back. The Alexandra Blossom Festival has been cancelled due to uncertainties about upcoming COVID-19 alert levels. Organisers say they're feeling gutted and disappointed about the cancellation. They're hoping those who had planned to travel to the festival and booked accommodation will still come, as there is still plenty to do in Alexandra. They say the festival had been able to go ahead last year after a move to alert level 1 just days before the event, but there was just too much uncertainty regarding this year's alert levels. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. The number of COVID cases continues to drop, with just 15 new cases in Auckland, while the COVID minister has level 2 advice. Dunedin restaurateurs are among those breathing a sigh of relief with the first day of COVID level 2, opening them up for table service. And the Sports Hall of Fame at Dunedin's railway station may have to close following its major blow to funding from the Dunedin City Council. And time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Beginning with the southern view, sunshine on a showery day. Looking at the situation, strong winds and cold changeable weather looks set to remain through the weekend, with a very strong west to southwesterly airstream prevailing over New Zealand, and then turning colder southerly next week. Starting at the northwest of the South Island, rain with 13 degrees in Greymouth and Westport. To the northeast, mostly cloudy in Nelson with 16 degrees and partial cloud in Blenheim with 17. To Canterbury, partial cloud and 16 degrees in Kaikoura and cloud and 17 for Christchurch and Ashburton. To the southern towns, westerly gales and rain later in the day with 14 degrees in the Catlins, Balclutha, Lumsden and Gore. Moving to central, strong northwesterlies and cloud for most areas with 15 degrees in Queenstown and Wanaka and 16 in Alexandra. Te Anau can expect strong westerlies, rain and 13 degrees. To the northern towns, strong northwesterlies and high cloud on the coast with 17 degrees in Timaru and Oamaru. Inland northwesterly gales, cloudy and 15 degrees for Twizel and Omarama. In Dunedin, strong cold southwesterlies dying out tonight with a low of 4. Milder tomorrow with high cloud increasing and fresh to strong northwesterly winds, possibly near gale tomorrow night. Some rain developing in the evening, a high of 17 and a low of 10. Rain easing to showers, then clearing later on Friday with fresh to cold, strong colder southwesterlies easing, a high of 13 and a low of 6. And in Invercargill, cloudy tonight with gusty westerlies and a low of 5. Northwesterly winds increasing again tomorrow to be near gale by evening. Fine at first, but cloud increasing and rain developing later. A high of 15 and a low of 9. Showers and strong to near gale west to southwesterly winds on Friday. A high of 10 and a low of 5. That's all for our news this Wednesday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz or follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.